everyone, Amy here from Plastic Clever Schools. Today we're going to be looking at the plastic crisis from a completely different angle, and we're actually going to be focusing on art. Now, art isn't always just about making something that looks pretty to hang on a wall. Some great artists use their creativity to highlight huge global issues and encourage people to take action. So today, we're going to look at how artists use their work to make us stop, think, and maybe even change our behaviour when it comes to plastic. Now, to start, we're going to do an activity called I See, I Think, I Wonder. On the screen is a digital image by an artist called Ferdy Rizquianto. I want you to start by pausing the video to just observe this artwork for a minute before we start to discuss. Okay, now it's time to pick up your Wonder worksheets. We're going to be thinking about this image in 3 different ways. Firstly, let's just look at what we can actually see. Look closely at the details. You can see a young boy on a sandy beach. You can see the ocean, but the water is being lifted up like a blanket or a rug. What objects, colours or materials can you identify? Write these all down on your sheet. Now let's go a bit deeper. What do you think about this art? Why do you think that the artist chose to have a young child lifting the wave rather than an adult? What do you think is happening in this image? What message is the artist trying to communicate? Write your answers down now on your sheet in the I think section. Finally, what does this image make you wonder? What questions does the artist make you ask? Does it make you wonder how much plastic is really in the ocean? Does it make you wonder who made it end up there? Great thinking, everyone. Hopefully you notice that this artist is using a clever visual trick, lifting up the ocean like a rug to show us that plastic pollution is a hidden problem. The horizon line of the ocean is going into the distance and it makes it feel vast and enormous. And the child seems to be curious at what lies beneath the ocean surface and is crouching down and lifting the wave to reveal the hidden impact that we're having on it. Artists often create work that's designed to make us stop, think, and change our behaviour, and they use their creativity to highlight global or social or environmental issues and encourage people to take action. So let's look at some examples of artists who do exactly that. First is Andy Goldsworthy. Look closely at these incredible spirals. He is a British sculptor and photographer who creates what's called land art. So he goes out into the wild and he creates sculptures using only natural materials that he finds right there. Things like bright flowers and twigs and pine cones and even icicles. He often uses only his bare hands and simple tools to prepare and arrange the materials. And the incredible thing about his art is that a lot of it is temporary, so it will blow away or rot and return naturally to the environment. Pause the video now and discuss, why might he choose natural materials instead of manufactured ones like plastics? And why do you think he allows many of his artworks to disappear? And how does his work encourage people to appreciate nature? Great thinking. Now let's look at our next artists, the Washed Ashore Project. Their mission is to make powerful art to educate a global audience about plastic pollution in the ocean and waterways, and to spark positive changes in our habits. They create enormous sculptures of sea creatures like the giant shark that you can see on screen. But if you look closely, you'll see that they're made entirely out of marine debris, often plastic waste collected from beaches. Now's your chance to pause the video and discuss, why do you think the artist specifically chose sea animals for these sculptures? How does using real plastic waste make the artwork more powerful? And would the artwork have the same impact if it was just made from paint or from clay? Finally, let's look at our last artist, Chris Jordan. He creates large-scale artworks that represent the huge quantities of waste that humans produce. And at first glance, his work might just look like a famous painting, like the famous Great Wave, or just a beautiful pattern. But his artwork is actually made of thousands of tiny photographs. If you zoom all the way in on his images, you will see that they're actually made up of thousands and thousands of repeated everyday objects, like plastic bags or bottle caps or toys. And in fact, the wave painting on screen features 2.5 million pieces of plastic collected from the Pacific Ocean. Now's your chance to pause the video and discuss what emotions does this artwork create when you realise what it's made of? Why do artists sometimes use shocking images like this? And what do you think the artist hopes that people will do after seeing this? You've now seen 3 very different ways to talk about the environment. Goldsworthy's temporary sculptures, washed ashore's giant plastic animals, and Chris Jordan's photographic mosaics. Now I want you to have a think about the different techniques and impacts that they used. You can use the sentence starters on the screen to help you, but have a think about which artwork you think was the most powerful and why. Which artist makes their message the easiest to understand? Which artwork would persuade someone to change their behaviour? And most importantly, does art actually have the power to change the world? Now, there's no right answers here, but your teacher will put you in small groups to discuss now, and try and think about supporting your own opinions with evidence that you saw in each of the artworks. Welcome back. I hope you had a great chance to debate your favourite artists. Now, despite their different styles, these artists are brought together by a common theme. They're making their work because they want us to think about and even change our behaviour. And at Plastic Clever Schools, we have a hierarchy of actions that we can take to help the planet, going from the best action at the top down to the bottom. So, as you can see, that's refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Have a look at the hierarchy. Which of these actions prevent plastic pollution before it happens? Which actions are the ones that you see promoted most commonly? And why is refusing or reducing plastic often more effective than recycling it? Let's have a look at the answers. Recycling and reusing are positive choices because they keep materials in use for longer. However, the greatest environmental benefit comes from refusing unnecessary plastic and reducing the amount that we use in the first place. Because if plastic is never produced or used, then it can never become waste. And this stops the problem before it even starts. By highlighting the amount of waste that we use and pollute the planet with, these artists are highlighting this by showing that our current consumption is just not sustainable. So before we finish, it's time for some personal reflections. Have a look at the 3 pieces of artwork on the screen that we covered earlier in this lesson. I want you to choose one piece of artwork from the different artists that has impacted you today, and have a go at explaining to the person next to you, what message is the artist communicating? What makes the artwork memorable for you? And has it changed the way that you think about plastic? Well done, everyone. Hopefully you've got some powerful messages and ideas to take away, and maybe even try out yourself with your own artistic creation. Whether you draw a poster, build a nature sculpture, or make a collage from recycling, remember that your art has the power to inspire others. Great art doesn't just simply decorate a space. It helps us to communicate ideas and challenges our thinking and inspires that positive action and behaviour change that we've spoken about today. And even if you don't fancy trying your own artistic hand, remember the message that we've looked at today. By refusing and reducing unnecessary plastic, we can make an even bigger difference than just by recycling alone. That's a change that we can all play a part in. And you can, and might already have, started in school. Have a great day, everyone.